Hello, this is Jimmy. This is the voice activation method. This is the video that really begins the entire journey of studying the voice activation method, a method that truly helps you understand what is the voice and why does the voice work a certain way, and ultimately how to use it to help you find your voice. So a little bit about me for people who this is your first time watching my video. Welcome. My name is Jimmy. I am a gender affirming vocal coach. My background comes from years, more than 10 years of being a singer, performer, and a vocal coach. I graduated from the prestigious Berklee College of Music as a singer. Not to name drop, but some of the alumni includes Charlie Puth, Psy, who sang Gangnam Style, Megan Trainor, who have studied briefly at Berklee College of Music, and many, many other very, very notable musicians. Um, so I come from a very artistic background, and that is the spirit that I bring to gender affirming voice. And I'm excited because I think this space can always benefit from a new perspective. Now, the purpose of this video is for me to really share and introduce you what the voice activation method is. A method is very different from a collection of exercises. A vocal method is an entire system of understanding voice as a instrument, as a skill. A method explains why the voice function a certain way. The terminologies, the word choice is all helping us to make sense of how it works. It is very different from, oh, here is an exercise, because an exercise is just a thing that you do. But a method explains why you're doing this exercise. When you do this exercise, why does your voice work or not work? It provides you the ability to kind of evaluate and then customize a program. A method is not, how do I phrase this? A method, while it's the same for every single person, the way that it is being utilized is different. Every individual student can experience this method in a completely unique way because the voice is different. Now, I believe a method is really important when it comes to gender affirming work because the voice is such a true and like kind of dear part of our expressions. And expressions are varied and diverse. There's no one size fit all equations that is going to help you navigate the complexity of the voice. It's just like, whoa, if someone asks, what is the equation that makes a singer an amazing singer? No one is going to be able to explain that because that is not something that can be answered in one question or in one answer. But a method can, because a method describes what is the goal of the vocalist. Now, as a singer myself who studied in a very rigorous and intellectually challenging artistic environment, a method was what I was chasing after. I don't want you to tell me, oh, do this and then do this. No, no, no. I want something that's a little bit deeper. That's one step, one level deeper that informs every single one of my decision. It helps me understand, this is where I am heading to. So what is the voice activation method? Now, this method is a combination of all of the knowledge that I have gathered through my 10 plus years of being a professional singer. I have learned many different forms of training. I've learned classical singing, musical theater, jazz. I've learned pop. I've learned a little bit of heavy metal screaming. Like that. Not a professional, but just dabbled a little bit. I've learned different methods such as bel canto, speech level singing. I have witnessed and watched other teachers teach. I've worked with other gender affirming companies and saw the other methods. There are methods that really resonated with me, and there are methods that simply does not make sense and have not made sense ever since. So all of these things, kind of all of the methods. I mean, there's so many functional vocal training, it's just so many breathing techniques. I distill it into one cohesive method that I truly believe is going to change your perspective of how you understand your voice. The voice activation method is built on two fundamental understanding of the voice. Number one, the vocal organ is largely outside of our conscious control. Whenever I say this, people are always like, I've never heard of that, but it makes a lot of sense. Yes, it does. The entire scientific, biological, vocal coach community can agree on this simple fact. But not every single vocal coach, speech therapist, act and teach on methods that are built on this fact. This fact is very important. You cannot directly control the behavior of the vocal folds. The voice, honestly, is a very complex neuromuscular, whatever. That's not my expertise. I don't know what the right word is, but it's very, very complex. And the way that it is being used is not because like, okay, I'm going to pull this muscle, then this muscle, then this muscle, and here you go. Here is my voice. Certainly nobody ever speaks like that, right? You just kind of think about what you want to say and then it's, and then it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. So this is so, so, so important, especially for the trans community, because for a lot of us, the voice felt like something that is so outside of our control because it is outside of your control. If you do not embrace this fact, you will always be in frustration and disappointment because you are always chasing for something that will never, ever be able to happen because the voice, once again, cannot be consciously controlled. But the voice obviously can be utilized. The power of the voice has been accessed by many people. So we have to understand, how does the voice work? The best analogy that I have come up with that can help you understand this relationship is that the voice is very similar to your heart. You cannot control your heart, but if you want the heart to beat a little bit faster, you can go for a run. The act of running is what makes the heart beat a little bit faster, not because you're like willed it into beating faster. So similarly with your voice, whenever you are saying something, you have to recognize that the sound, the resulting sound, is the result of something else that you're doing. And that something else that you're doing, this process, is what vocal training is all about. And that is once again, the difference between a method and a collection of exercises or a curriculum, because method really helps you understand what is the voice. So I'm going to definitely go into more details in more videos. By the way, this channel is going to keep pumping out videos. So if you like this type of content, you're like a vocal nerd and you are a person that wants to gain true mastery of the voice. You are not a person that is satisfied with superficial surface level help and quick fixes. This channel is for you. Now, the second thing that the voice activation method is built upon is that the voice is the result of the balance between the two vocal registers. Now, we call this head voice or chest voice. Now, here is where I get so much internet hate, and a lot of people criticize me and certainly misunderstand my book, Owning Your Voice, which basically explains my all of this method. There are many names out there that describes the two registers, and I'm sure you have heard of some of them. Vocal weight, right? Heavier weight, lighter weight. Vocal mass, thicker mass, thinner mass. Open quotient, closed quotient. Falsetto, speaking voice. There are many, many names out there, and I'm sure there are a lot of terms out there that maybe I have not even heard of. Now, the terms that I use are head voice and chest voice. I have a lot of issues with these terms. Even with the terms head voice and chest voice that I use every single day in my lesson, I have issues. Because these terms fundamentally are not describing truly what registers are. So let me explain to you in hopefully the simplest way possible. The two vocal registers are strong versus soft. Strong, meaning like, notice how my voice is really strong. And soft, like, notice how my voice is really soft. These are two very distinctive vocal textures. We call these vocal registers. Now, the stronger one is what I call the chest voice, and many people call it too, vocal coaches, and head voice is the softer one. But I have a huge problem with the term chest voice and head voice because it misleads people into believing that head voice come out of your head and chest voice come out of your chest. No. The chest voice and head voice, or the two vocal textures or registers, are the results of how the vocal folds function. To put it simply, basically imagine this is your vocal folds. At the end, there are two cartilages that stretch. If one stretches a little bit more, it creates more chest voice, and the other stretches a little bit more, it creates more head voice. But you can imagine how confusing these terms are, right? Because it's so easy to believe, to think that, oh yeah, chest voice, so let me put my voice in my chest like this. And certainly a lot of teachers definitely believe in that because they are taught that way from people who, taught that teacher, and so on and so forth. Now, similarly with vocal weight, oh my god, so many people criticize me. Oh wow, vocal weight is a industry established, terminology. Now, just because it's industry established doesn't mean that it's the best term. Now, I'm not criticizing what vocal weight stands for. What it stands for, I agree. I have issue with the name of vocal weight because once again, your voice doesn't become heavier or lighter. But then people who are, team vocal weight, they'll be like, well, vocal weight is, doesn't describe the weight of the voice. It describes the weight of the sound. So it's like, okay, cool. Yes, I agree on that. I agree what vocal weight, like a thicker weight and a thinner weight, I agree on what that is. But you can imagine how this term for a lot of people, they misunderstand it. And certainly for people like you who are trying to actively seek truth, it can be a source of confusion, right? So I just want to really make sure we understand I'm not criticizing what these terms stand for. I'm criticizing how these names are named because words matter. Because when there are so many words in the English language, why would you choose chest or head or weight or mass when we're trying to describe the quality of the sound that is listened and heard? So I think the simplest term is strong voice and soft voice, but I guess there are going to be people who would be like, well, so you can be strong with head voice and strong, it gets too complicated. But anyway, terminologies don't matter. What matter is what it stands for, which is the two distinct vocal registers. Now, if your voice has ever cracked, you have experienced these two registers shifting in a very abrupt way. Now, if your voice can crack, I want to congratulate you. That's good because it means that the two registers exist. There are people who cannot crack. And if you are one of them, if you're watching this and you cannot crack your voice on command, that means that you need to invest time into developing one of the vocal registers. Otherwise, any type of vocal training without recognizing it, you're going to have a lot of difficulties. So this leads me to the next point, which is everybody is at a different level of functional development. The voice is the result of the two registers. Now, for most of us, the two registers are very either or, right? That's why the voice wants to crack. However, a professional singer, such as me, I've spent years training the two registers so they're very, very smooth. I can transition the balance between the registers pretty much on command, such as this. Ah. You can see how smoothly my voice went from strong into soft. That is an exercise called messa di voce. It is an Italian classical term that stems from hundreds of years ago that described this ability to transition your vocal registers. For many of you, when you do this, the messa di voce, you may notice your voice is cracking, it dips, and it's very unstable. That is fine, right? So this is what you're trying to work on. You're trying to work on the balance between these two vocal registers. Now, everybody is at different functional development. Some of you guys may notice you can't even change your volume. Your voice is kind of stuck in one register or the other. Some of you may notice that you can. However, the journey is very, very unstable and cracking. And some of you may notice that you can do that exercise, messa di voce, very, very smoothly, kind of like how I demonstrated. Now, depending on where you're at in this functional journey, your training is going to be very, very different. A person who is only have access to one registers, you're not going to be able to do all of the fancy stuff, the resonance adjustment. You have to focus on the most basic. However, if you're a person who truly have unlocked most of the vocal functions, then you're going to have a relatively easier time, not easy, but relatively easier time in accomplishing your goal. You will be a better candidate for, kind of a quick training. Now that we have established two very, very important facts, which is number one, the voice cannot be directly controlled. Number two, the sound of your voice is the result of the two registers. It's balanced. You can do 50-50, 20-80, or whatever. This is exactly what vocal, singers and voice actors, they spend years trying to achieve this. So now here comes the method. Now we know what are we aiming for, right? The balance, but we cannot control it directly. So what are we doing here? Well, the voice activation method also recognizes that it is about indirect control, like I mentioned earlier, the pitch, the vowel, and the intensity. So when you're working with a vocal coach like me who teaches voice activation method, essentially, you're trusting the vocal coach to be able to strategically come up with a pitch vowel intensity pattern that activates the behavior of your voice or a certain register balance. So that as you're working with the vocal coach, you're exercising and getting familiar with the cause and effect relationship between the pitch vowel intensity and the behavior of your voice. So that ultimately you can lead yourself into understanding how to feminize your voice or masculinize your voice. But this entire process is extremely painstakingly slow. This method is not for people who are looking for quick fixes. This is for people who recognize that the voice is a skill. It is an art form. It is a discipline that require rigorous commitment and a strong sense of discipline. If you are a person who are looking for quick fixes, quick exercises, and you don't care about understanding the voice, you just want to get the voice, and that's about it, then this channel is not for you. This channel is for students who are here for the long run. If you recognize that the voice is a lifelong journey because the voice is dynamic, if you recognize the voice is an integral part of your expression, and expression is creative, then the voice activation method is for you. The voice activation method training process starts from the fundamental. When I work with students, the first few lessons is never about gender affirming. It's always about understanding the voice, understanding the behavior of the voice, understanding what is volume, what is pitch, what is resonance, understanding and exploring the entirety of the voice. Students stay with me not for a month or 2 months. Students stay with me for a long, long time because there is always room for technical development. Even me, after 10 years, more than 10 years actually, of vocal training and being a professional singer who have worked as a background singer for artists who have trained celebrities in China, in Asia, I am actually still taking voice lessons from my teacher. Now, the next thing that I really want to really clarify is I am not a therapist. I'm not a speech therapist. I am not a medical professional. I am not licensed in any to practice any medicine. I am an artist. I'm an artist who has been rigorously trained and who have rigorously explored multiple way of training. So in my kind of videos, I treat every single one of you as an artist. I train you as a artisan. I look at you as you are trying to explore the entirety of the voice, not limited to a narrow goal, but to really understand how to find and own your voice. So, after hearing all of that, some of you may be like, this is for me. Some of you may be like, you know what? This is not for me. I don't want to go through all of that. That is all fine. But hopefully in this video, I have shared enough that can help you understand a little bit about this process. Now, of course, this method it has complexity. That's why I wrote a book. So this video is not gonna, kind of go through every single aspect, which is why I'm so excited for this YouTube channel. So once again, if you enjoy this type of content, if you are a vocal nerd, and you're excited to activate your voice, subscribe and like and comment in the comment section below. What are some perspectives that you learned today that you didn't know before? See you next time.